All right, welcome back, y'all. Bear down, and man, this is going to be an interesting to watch this offseason, how this plays out as we come to the end of the college football season and we get into draft season. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Bears handle this offensive line because there's so much speculation. All Bears fans are going crazy with the mock drafts. I've done it as well, and we're getting there. That's the time of season we're in because we're limited for several weeks. But you look at our line and where it stands right now, you've got a couple staples. You got Darnell Wright on the right tackle. He's a staple right now. And you got Braxton for this next year, but with no clear future there. And you look at all these holes. You see we don't have a center. This is just who's signed, not necessarily who will come back, but who's signed. And then Ryan Bates with his injuries, maybe even retirement. Bill Murray, converted defensive tackle. Kieran Amagaji, who's got to continue to develop. There's not a lot of depth here. And that was the big problem through the years. There was zero depth. So whether your speculation is that Caleb's responsible for the sacks or that the line is responsible for the sacks or this line was top 15 or top 20 or top 30 or bottom of the league, whatever your speculation was, there has to be an overhaul, complete overhaul because of necessity. We just don't have guys re-signed and guys that are long-term on this roster. Darnell Wright is the only one, well, and Kieran Amagaji, if he develops, that's long-term solution here that have long-term contracts. So it has to be overhauled. So, in my opinion, the first four picks, three of them need to be, if we trade down, 3 out of 5 need to be on offensive line. If not, at least 2 out of the 4 need to be on offensive line. The other ones need to be on defensive line. So, we need to have line help especially. But I usually do interior offensive line combined with guards and centers together. But with how big of a need it is this year for the Bears, I decided to switch up the two and do center as one video and interior offensive line guards as the other video. And the reason I usually do them together is because a lot of players do transition from college to the NFL and be very versatile. Like last year, Graham Barton moved from tackle to center and Cooper Beebe moved from guard to center. And that happens a lot. You can interchange these guys depending on their metrics, how they measure out in the combine, how they measure out pre-draft, where they'll go, and you see guys like Tevin Jenkins was a very high-level tackle in college, drafted in the second round by the Bears, but we moved him into guard, and he's fit a lot better at guard. So some of our big free agents, Tevin Jenkins, let's move this a little. Yeah, Tevin Jenkins is a big free agent. You got Matt Pryor's a big free agent. He played very well for us, meant to be a backup this year and really thrust into that starter role and played very, very well. And then you've got Coleman Shelton is the other big free agents that we have. So a lot of big moves to be made for the Bears. And with those moves, one of the most important things to keep in mind as we head towards that is availability. The best ability is availability. And we've said that over and over again. But look at over here. You look at, Caleb's been an Iron Man this year. He hasn't been injured. 1,060 offensive snaps. Look right behind him. Coleman Shelton, 1,059 offensive snaps. So only one less than Caleb. And then you go down here, Darnell Wright, 959. Just missed a little bit of time. Matt Pryor, as he wasn't expected to be the starter, but look at him being an Iron Man as we thrust into that role. And you move down, Tev Jenkins has had his injury. Braxton Jones has been a little injured. Larry Borham's had to fill in. So as you look at these guys, Tev's been continually injured, so it's hard to be consistent with him. But Coleman Shelton, I've said this over and over again on this channel, guys. He's been available for us, and he's been really high level. A lot of people can speculate he wasn't brought in to be the starter. I don't agree with that at all. I think from day one he was signed to be the starter. The second day of free agency he was signed. DeAndre Swift was signed on the very first day of free agency, and Coleman Shelton being signed on the second day, that's a big sign that we were really targeting him. A lot of people will use that we traded for Ryan Bates as ammunition, that he was really the priority, but you couldn't sign Coleman Shelton at the same time you could trade for Ryan Bates. So it was just a matter of process of getting those things. And I have no doubt they were brought in to compete against each other, and I really thought Ryan Bates was brought in to be able to give security with Nate Davis and his fluctuation and not always being consistent or available, and Tevin Jenkins being injured, bringing in that really high-quality swing guard, a guy that could play on both sides and had played on both sides, had played center as well. That's why I thought they really targeted Ryan Bates early, but he did have the injury history. But Coleman Shelton, I thought, came in day one to be the true priority center, and he's really played that way. I mean, he had experience before, and bringing in a rookie quarterback, not having an experienced center like that would have been a little bit weird to me, but it ended up working out that way. And he's been, if you look over here, you can 12th out of 41 centers this year, which is not terrible. Is it elite? Is it going to be your top guy in the league? Is it going to be Super Bowl caliber? Probably not. And the same thing with Braxton Jones and a couple of other players on this team. Content creators, social media, our media, 670, they bring out a low light play. They'll take one play that went bad. And there's a couple on Coleman Shelton this year that look really bad. They do. And he's got to fix some of those things. But for the most part, he's played really, really well. You look at his grades, and then this is what brings out the haters of the PFF grades. They'll be like, well, you just gauge it all off PFF, and it doesn't, you don't look at tape. No, you got to do both. You got to do both. But you also can't take one low light play or two low light plays and say, man, he got stunted there, and they went right around him. He went unblocked. Well, look at how his guards are next to him. Look at how he plays. And look at 50 snaps and see that on those 50 snaps, maybe you got one, maybe two bad snaps, but the other 30, 40, 45, 48 are really, really good plays. So Coleman Shelton, this fan base is crapped on extremely, and there's really not a basis for it because he's played really well. Okay, so before we get to the free agents and before we get to this year's draft, let's look at last year's draft. We were really high on a couple guys because they were generational. We use that word a lot, but they were really high-end, I should say high-end prospects. And Jackson Powers-Johnson, who's been playing guard mostly with the Raiders, and then Zach Frazier, who's been playing really high-level ball with the Pittsburgh Steelers, were the two that I said here and a lot of places said were the two top prospects. A lot of people in Bears fandom like Cedric Von Pran. It's now Cedric Von Pran Granger, who's really not had a good year at all. Drake Nugent was one that I had that a lot of other places didn't have. I thought he was high-end. And then Bo Limmer was another one. There's other players like Tanner Bordolini, who we highlighted a little bit, who wasn't really high on the radar, but really has played really well for the Colts there. Cooper Beebe got moved into center, and he's played really well as well. I highlighted him, but I highlighted him on the guard video. So here's your main guys. This is the NFL. This is the draft up here, kind of where we viewed them and ranked them. I've changed my metrics a little bit for this year to be cleaner and to be better, but we were clearly pumping Jackson Powers-Johnson and Zach Frazier. Jackson Powers-Johnson has played very well. Zach Frazier has played the best by far. He's been the home run hit of this last draft for the center position, so we were right. We move on to the next year, and there are some really good prospects in this upcoming draft. So here's the thing with your mock drafts, guys. With your drafts in general, you're never going to have guys hitting in the spots that your mock drafts say they are. There's something big happening right now as we come to the end of the year and guys declare for the draft that is going to impact where the Bears need to take their center. And I'll go back to, real quick, where I think things need to happen. There's two things that I think need to happen. With this need at center and having a rookie quarterback, I think we absolutely need to have a vet. We need to sign a vet. And we need to have a rookie to develop and have them compete against each other. And I think they both need to be very high-end guys. And if you've got two great guys and maybe one of them needs to shift guard, not a big deal. Those things happen sometimes. You watch that with Jackson Powers-Johnson. But you want to have the best five guys on the field all the time. So let's move back here. And so Parker Brailsford, who a lot of people were hot on, I'm not hot on at all. Like, he's very undersized. You look at these guys. This is NFL center starting size, 310, 315, 305, 330, 310, 299. Those guys should be starters in the NFL. Parker Brailsford has come back. He's decided to return for his final year of college, which he should. He's undersized. He's like 275. He gets bull rushed a lot. And when he hits NFL competition, he's going to be hit that way as well. He plays big for his size, but he needs another year in college. Jake Slaughter, who I think is arguably one of the best centers in college football this year, is decided to return as well. Logan Jones, who I was very high on, has decided to return. And Connor Tollison from Missouri has also decided to return. So these four guys were some of the top prospects in this draft, and they've all decided to return. So there's more than these six, but these are kind of my top six. Bryce Foster was the one I was big on preseason this year, heading into this NFL or NCAA season. He was the one I was high on. His pass block has not looked the cleanest as he's transferred to Kansas, but he has a good base. I'm high on him having the opportunity, but I really want the Bears to go out and hit a home run, and I think that home run right now is Jared Wilson, and I've said that all year. As you watch my mock drafts, I've really been mocking him into my drafts. But the big thing with Jared Wilson and with all these other guys is you see them mocked at different positions at fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round. It's not realistic because when you have a clear need, and this is a very weak free agent class for center position, these guys could go higher than you think. So the Bears are picking, right now 9th overall, 40th overall, 41st, 41st overall now with the Panthers win, and then you're looking at 73-ish. 72-ish, 71, you're looking there. You're going to have to take your center in the third round at the latest. You may have to take him even earlier than that. So I saw Nick Rohde from Just Another Year post in Twitter an idea of taking a center with our 42nd overall pick, and people were lambasting him baselessly. Like, I shouldn't say lambasting. There were a couple people with comments on there saying, no way we're taking a center in the second round. No way we're taking, you got this guy's in the fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round. Guys, this is a clear need for us. You got to protect Caleb Williams. You got to be able to have your center that you want. Centers, your top centers go in the second round. You look at Zach Frazier and you look at Jackson Powers-Johnson. You look at Graham Barton, go at the end of the first, early second. All these guys went second round last year. Just because your mock draft is saying third, fourth, fifth round does not mean that's where they're going. Jared Wilson is going to go in the second or third round. Jake Majors is going to go in the second or third round. That's just how these things work. Now, this is a deeper draft. So you've got some very high-end defensive ends, defensive tackles, offensive linemen in the second round. You've got some cornerbacks. You've got some really good players that are going to go. So you should be able to get your center, Jared Wilson, Jake Majors, Seth McLaughlin, even Drew Kendall, there in the third round. But if you're really wanting to solidify a guy you've fallen in love with, say you love Jared Wilson, and you really want to take him, you could take him in the second round. So don't be shocked when these draft orders change as we get to the draft and where the Bears are taking someone. There's going to be a Bears fan or a half the Bears fans or 2/3 or 3/4 of the Bears fans that are upset when we take a center with the 42nd overall pick. They just will. Now, I don't think that's our needs or the priority. I think we do need to wait till the third round. But don't be shocked. That's my blurb on the mock drafts and where we take people. Don't be shocked if people are upset with where we take a center. So my target right now is third round, kind of like last year we were targeting third round as a backup tackle or as a defensive end. That third round pick to me needs to be our center. And right now these guys are projected according to the consensus drafts at 115, 132, 222, 120, 203. It's not realistic, like I said. So Jared Wilson's my favorite. He only allows a sack, hit, or hurry once every 94 snaps this year. That's freaking phenomenal. He's a great center, good run blocking, great pass blocking. He's the overall package. I'll get to them in a minute with their individual breakdowns of the top ones. Jake Majors has come out and played very high-level ball this year as well. His run blocking needs a little work, but he's not scouted as being a poor run blocker. He just has had a couple of mishaps this year. Seth McLaughlin, same thing. Ohio State. Bryce Foster, I think, is playing very well, and people are just down on him for some reason, maybe his size, but he has good speeds for his size. Jonah Monheim, who played with Caleb at USC, was a tackle converted to center, so he didn't play center with Caleb. So I've seen the narrative out there. A couple of people have posted that, well, you can pair Caleb back up with his center from you. That wasn't who his center was. Jonah Monheim was the tackle who's converted into center, and he's done a very good job. So some of the knock on him is that even though he's played really elite ball this year, he doesn't have all the experience to call out. Your center is your quarterback on the offensive line. Your center is your general. He's the one that sees things. You see, in fact, all these guys with their hands up pointing. You're pointing things out from the defense, and you're the one communicating what's going on. So Drew Kendall, the only knock on him is he doesn't have a solid base. So even though his pass blocking is really high up, that you have to look at film and you have to look at this. So you can look at Drew Kendall, Boston College, and you can say, well, he looks like the most elite guy. Look at all these blues, and look at this. He's only projected 303. Well, he doesn't have a solid base. He's going to get bull rushed in the NFL. So if you don't like what's happening with the Bears and you feel like we get bull rushed too much, Drew Kendall's not your guy, but he's a good developmental one. So I wouldn't be upset at all if we drafted him and got him in the weight room and developed him. But we are going to have to pick one of these guys. And then I got to hit this because this is one of my biggest frustrating takes. Here's your top 3 centers in free agency. These are your only ones you really should be considering for a starting center in the NFL. And the clear answer to me, and I've been preaching it, is Coleman Shelton. And for some reason, narratives run supreme with our fan base. We have to run with just garbage. I mean, Coleman Shelton has played very, very well this year. Drew Dahlman obviously has a very high overall grade. He's one of the top, I shouldn't say 5, top 7, top 8 centers in the league. He's younger, so I understand it. You're going to way overpay for him, and he does not have a proven base. If you think Coleman Shelton gets bull rushed, go watch Drew Dahlman. He does not handle pressure very well at all, but he's a great run blocking center. Our run game would improve significantly. But if you're looking at a long-term solution, you're going to have to overpay him. I mean, you're going to pay him 3-4 years and $50 million. When Coleman Shelton, you can probably re-sign in a 1 or 2 year deal for $5 million, $6 million, $7 million a year. It's just the reality of the situation. So Drew Dahlman gets bull rushed, and then Ryan Kelly. A lot of fans have really wanted Ryan Kelly. He's 31. He's getting older. And like we said back, I don't understand our fan base. We don't want to re-sign Tevin Jenkins, who's perpetually injured, but our fan base wants to go sign Ryan Kelly, who can't stay healthy and stay on the field. And they've already replaced him with Tanner Bortolini, a rookie. So they've already done the same thing. And I get the appeal of Ryan Kelly, multiple-time Pro Bowler, I think 4 or 5-time Pro Bowler, and a very consistent staple in the league. Great player. But if we're looking to move forward to the future and pair someone up with Caleb Williams, you probably, in my opinion, should sign Coleman Shelton to a 2-year deal, extend him when he's played very well. His sacks, hits, and hurries, his pressures allowed are right in line with these guys. In fact, better than Drew Dahlman's, right in line with them and right in line with the top guys in the league. Once every 27.2 plays, his overall grades are very good. His run blocking, pass blocking, very good, and he doesn't have very many penalties. 1 penalty every 213 reps. You look at Drew Dahlman, about half of that. So, and then Ryan Kelly, who's very experienced in the league, is obviously a better standard. I mean, very, very solid. So here's your top 2 guys as we head into the draft. You can read their scouting report. I know that's really small, so let me bring me off of here, and we'll bring that bigger. There's their scouting reports. Here's their grades of how they've done their overall grades. 0 sacks allowed this year for Jared Wilson. I mean, he grades out well against the pass, against the run. Very quick, very agile, very versatile, very good run blocker, pass blocker, great athleticism. So there is Jared Wilson for you. And then as we go to the other one that I'd really like to consider, it's Jake Majors, who's played very, very solid as well. He doesn't, I mean, look at these pressures. Whoops, moved the wrong thing there. Look at these pressures. 0 pressure there. 0 sack, 0 sack, 1 sack, 0 sack. And this is 5-year starter. Well, first year he filled in, and then 4-year starter for Texas. So those are my 2 guys that I would want the Bears to consider, and you're going to have to take them in the 3rd round if you do that, and someone might take them before you if you don't. So, people ask my opinion, think what I think we should do, and this is the clearest one for me. Center position, we got to fill multiple roles within the interior offensive line. You bring back consistency with Caleb. You sign Coleman Shelton to a 2-year deal, $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year. You do that right off the bat. He might get a better offer than that in free agency too, and people are going to wonder why we can't have nice things when we crap on our best players. And then you pair them up with a center that we draft, one of the top centers in this draft. Now, this isn't the overwhelming, I mean, you're not having your Zach Frazier in this draft, but to me, Jared Wilson is being a little bit overlooked by a lot of people, and he's right up there with them. He can put a little bit more base on him. He can get a little more strength, but he's pretty much NFL ready, playing at Georgia, playing against the competition he's played at. And if you go watch him on a lot of run plays, he gets out there early, and he is the lead blocker. He's really, really solid at his quickness, his speed, as well as getting to the edge and getting those blocks that he's supposed to get. And he's got a good base, too. He's really solid. So I wouldn't mind us taking Jared Wilson early. If we take him in the 2nd round, I'm not going to be upset. I would understand it completely. You see people wanting to take a tackle in the 1st round. That makes 0 sense. We're willing to take a guard in the 2nd round. Why not take a center if it's the right one? You saw last year Zach Frazier, Jackson Powers-Johnson went in the 2nd round. I'm not opposed at all to taking Jared Wilson in the 2nd round. Even Jake Majors, I would prefer that 3rd rounder, but we've got to take one of those 2 guys, and we've got to re-sign Coleman Shelton. That's my take on it. Hope you guys appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy the video. If you don't mind hitting that like button, please do so. If you don't mind subscribing, if you haven't, I appreciate you doing so. I try to bring as much realistic, down-to-earth, non-narrative takes about where this team is heading, where the draft should lie, where the good players are that we should re-sign. And in my opinion, we absolutely need to retain Coleman Shelton because of the weakness of this free agent class, because of how well he played despite what this fan base or the narratives will tell you, and then take one of those top guys in this draft. Because with how many guys are returning to college this next year, there's a couple of guys at the top. We really got to get our guy. Let me know what you guys think. Until next time, appreciate you tuning in. Da Bears, and bear down.